What's up, guys, gals, and my non-binary pals? It's your girl back at it again with another unprofessional AutoCAD tutorial. This video is a 3-in-1. I'll be doing 3 drawings, so don't be too scared of this video's length. You can always skip forward and fast forward as needed. So since we spent so much time in the last video messing with the dimension settings, let's save ourselves some time and hassle by making a template. I'll open up the drawing we did from the last video and click on Save As up at the top left, and I'm going to change the file format here at the very bottom of the window to .dwt. It says template there, and I'll name it Homework. Maybe one day I'll learn to spell correctly, and then I'll hit Save. This description is just to help us remember what the template is for, which is useful in the professional world, but it doesn't really matter too much for us right now, so you can just leave it blank. Now I'm going to select everything and delete it and save again, and then I can just close this out. Now when I go to open a new drawing, I can pick out our fancy new template from the drop down, and bada boom, we got this nice blank new drawing with the dimension styles pretty much how we want them. Now let's take a look at our drawing image, and it's important when you look at a new drawing to kind of come up with a game plan for how you're going to tackle this. There are pretty much infinite ways to do it, so just pick the way that you know the best and which will be easiest for you. I'm noticing these circles here in the middle. Looks like they're all the same size as indicated by this 5x, and these are semicircles here, and some straight lines and a fillet. Notice that the size of the circles is given by a diameter noted by that little circle with the line through it. So when I go to draw my circle, either by clicking on this button or typing C enter, first get out of the dimension tool, now press C enter. The circle tool is asking me for a radius. I can either do some math and divide the diameter in half, or I can come down to this command line and click on the diameter button, or I can press D enter, and now it's asking me for a diameter, which is of course 0.5. Okay. Now I want to copy this guy, so I'll use the trusty Control-C, Control-V shortcut, and then I'll just place it wherever, because we're going to line them up in just a minute. Now I'm going to do a move command using the shortcut M, enter, then I'll select the center of this circle and line it up exactly on top of the first circle. For this to work, you have to make sure that your object snaps are on, and you want to make sure this guy is blue and that the circle center point is checked. And we're also going to need the tangent in just a bit, so let's make sure that's on too. Now that our circles are on top of each other, let's do another move command to be sure that the middle circle is in the right spot. I'll press M, enter, then select my circle, and then select the very center for the base point, and I'll move it out to the right until I see my polar tracking green dotted line saying I'm going exactly horizontally. Then I'll type my dimension, which is 1.25. Yay! Okay, now he's in the right spot. Let's move on to those outside semicircles. This semicircle is 0.25 away from the outside of the circle we just made, so I'm going to use the... Can you not? Of course not. No! Leave me alone. Hush. You big baby. Alright. The semicircle is 0.25 units away from the outside of the circle we just made, so I'm going to use the offset command, whose shortcut is O, enter. Then it asks me for the offset distance, which I just said was 0.25, and now it wants me to select what I want to offset, which is this guy. Now I'll just click outside of the circle to place the offset circle. Now I'm going to make these little straight lines. Let me grab the line tool, and then I want to be sure I'm snapped exactly to this tangent point, and now I'll drag it out over here. I'm gonna trim this up later, so the length of this line doesn't really matter, it just has to be horizontal. Now I'll press enter to get out of this command, and then I'll hit enter again to repeat the last command, which was line, and now I'll do the same thing on the other side. Again, the length doesn't really matter, so I'll just click somewhere over here and hit enter to finish the command. So there's apparently a saying in AutoCAD, never draw the same thing twice, because AutoCAD is real good at copying things, and I need more... okay. I need 4 more of these little semicircle line dealy bobs, and I could just copy and paste and rotate, but that's a lot of steps, and you all know I don't like to do more work than I have to. So instead I'll use the handy dandy array polar tool. You can just type R and you can pick array polar from the drop down. Now it's asking me to select the objects I want to array, which is all these guys, not this center circle. We only need one of him. Now it wants to know the center of this array, which is oh my god. Oh man. Okay. And now it wants to know the center of the array, which is the center of that middle circle. So I'll click that and bam, there's my default array. Obviously, I only need 4 of these, so I'll change this number up at the top from 6 to 4, and boom, there we have it. Press enter or hit this button up here to close the array. Now let's clean this up a bit. I want to use the trim tool to get rid of these extra lines, but notice when I click on this shape, AutoCAD still considers it an array. So it opens up this toolbar we saw earlier, and we don't want that right now. So to turn it into shapes, let's use the explode command, shortcut X enter, and once it's exploded, we can just select the individual lines and arcs. Now I'll get the trim tool by typing TR enter, and it's asking me to select the objects I want to trim. I can select them all, or I can just press enter again to select all, which I think is much easier in this case. Now all I have to do is click on the things I want to trim. This guy, that guy, Cool, looking good. Now let's add in our fillet here in the corners of this little plus sign. The fillet radius is 0.25 according to the drawing, so I'll grab the fillet tool using the shortcut F enter, and then I'll set the radius by pressing R enter, and then type 0.25 enter. Now all I have to do is select the 2 lines that make up the corner to be filleted, and there we have it. Now to repeat this command, I'll just press enter, and AutoCAD will remember the radius that we set, so I can just go straight to clicking. Now I'll just repeat that for the others, and there we go. Looks good. It looks like I still have some leftover lines, so I'll just delete those fellers real quick. Neat. Now I'll just put this guy in the shape layer, which you notice is already there because we started this from a template. Now I'll change the shape layer's thickness to something a little bolder, and I'll get myself back to the dim layer so I can add my dimensions. I'll start with these center marks, because why not? The center marks are in the Annotate tab up at the top here, and I'll just grab this button and click on these here circles. And of course, they're going to look all goofy and huge, but whatever, we'll fix that later, I guess. For now, we'll just put them in on all of the circles, and then I'll click on one of them and then go over to the Properties tab. And remember that if you can't see the Properties tab, you can just select one of the things that you want to change the properties of, right-click it, and then select Properties from the list, and this window will pop up. And once you see that, we can start to adjust the length of these arms. 0.3 is a good length, and when I press enter, it automatically sends me to the next line where I can real easily type 0.3 enter, 0.3 enter, 0.3 enter, and now, of course you can't see it because those other fuckers are too long, but whatever, we can fix that too. I'll do this little cross in the middle. I think 0.2x is good. Then I'll try the gap size. Let's do 0.1 for now. So now, I don't want to have to go and repeat that for all the other 4, so I'll just use this Match Properties button up here under the Home tab, and I'll select my source, which is the center one, press enter, and now I'll select the destination objects, which is the other 4. And now, looking at the source image, I think the gaps are a little bit too big, so I'll show you another way to adjust all these at once, just by selecting all of these booties and then heading over to the Properties tab and changing the gap size to 0.7. According to this image, there are no gaps between the center marks, so I'll just adjust this one guy in the middle so his arms are longer and will touch the other arms. I think 0.5 will do. Let me just put that in. Okay, good enough. Maybe the crosses could stand to be a bit bigger, but y'all can play around with that. For me, I'm happy enough with it. Cool, so now we can go on to those good old-fashioned dimensions. Y'all already know how to put these in, so I'll speed things along here. Now I need to get rid of these zeros in front of the decimals. That's called a leading zero. And instead of going to dim styles, which I could totally do, I'm gonna select the dims to be changed, and then I'll go to the properties, and you'll notice that all of the settings from dim styles are here too, in these little property windows. Now, the properties that you set kind of override the dim styles, and they won't actually change the dim styles for the rest of everybody, so I'll just turn on leading zero suppression, and nice. Okay, that works. Alright, now the only thing left to do is sort of cosmetic, basically, so if you're comfy with that, then you can go ahead and do this on your own and skip to the next drawing. I'm just gonna add in my X's to these little text boxes, flip these arrows, and then I'll explode these fellers so I can manipulate them a little easier. To stretch this guy out, I'm going to use the stretch command. I'm just going to select everything but the arrow basically and drag it out to where I want it to go. Okay, cool. Looks good. Let's save this feller and close it out. Now, on to the next drawing. Okay, there it is. Alright, so this one has instructions for us to use a polyline, change the width, deactivate solid fills, and use the region command, which is like AutoCAD speak for refresh. You'll see what I mean in a bit. So I'll just open up a new drawing using our nifty template, and the shape is pretty straightforward. I'll just use the polyline command or the shortcut PL enter. I'm going to rearrange these winders here so I don't have to keep clicking back and forth, and I'll speed up the shape creation because I think y'all get this. Now, for this little quarter, I could do the math and figure out the length of this line and put it at a 45-degree angle, but instead I'll just add the diagonal line later. Now, to demonstrate why you need to use a polyline for this particular assignment, I'll use the regular old line tool to make some random shape. As you can see, this is individual line segments as opposed to the polyline, which is one big long line shape polyline. Also, I'm going to demonstrate how you can join up polylines into one big polyline. So I'm going to grab the polyline tool and make these little diagonal corners here by selecting the endpoints of these little 0.5 length segments here, and there we have it. If you can't see the endpoint square little thingamabob, just go down to Object Snap Settings and make sure that endpoint is checked. Now, I can't just delete the sharp corners because this is a polyline. As you can see, the entire shape is selected when I try to select the lines, but that's not a big deal. We can just use our handy dandy trim tool and snip those away. So now we have a bit of a problem. AutoCAD knows that these are all separate polylines here, these diagonal corners, this horizontal bottom part, and the T-shaped top bit. But using the pedit command, that's polyline edit, we can join them up. The shortcut is PE, so I'll type that and press enter, and it asks me to select the polyline I want to edit. It doesn't really matter which one I start with, so I'll just click one and then select join from the drop-down list. Now it wants to know which plines I want to join, which is all of them, so I'll select them all and press enter. Now we're still in the pedit command, which is really handy because the problem also wants us to change the width to 0.03. So I'll select width from the list, and as you can see, it's asking what our new width will be. I'll type in 0.03 and hit enter. Cool. Now we have a nice juicy line. Okay, so to show you the difference here with plines and lines with this weird little shape, I'll change its thickness in the properties so you can see the difference when we change the solid fills. To disable the solid fills, head over to the View tab at the top, and then where it says Interface, click on that little arrow to bring up the pop-up window. Now, over here on the right side of the window, there's a checkbox that says Apply Solid Fills. For now, we want to uncheck that and click OK. Don't be alarmed that nothing happens. We need to regenerate or refresh using the regen command. So I'll just type that and press enter, and there you have it, no solid fills. As you can see, nothing at all happened to our regular line shape, even though we changed the thickness. So don't try to sneak by using regular lines here. It won't work unless you use the pedit command to turn it into a polyline. So now we no longer need this weird little shape, so I'll delete him to clear up some space. The assignment is asking us to reactivate solid fills and reissue the regen command, so I'll do that right quick. Okay, now I'll move this shape to the shape layer and just add in the dims, which y'all already know how to do, so I'll speed this along. Wow, I can't believe it took me this far along the process to realize I forgot to draw this whole square here in the middle. Oh well, I'll take this opportunity to show you how to turn a line into a pline using the pedit command. First, I'll draw the shape using the line tool, and now I'll issue the pedit command. Click on this line and AutoCAD says, hey, whoa there, this is not a polyline. Do you want me to turn it into one? And we say yes, of course. And now, just like before, we will use join to turn the rest of the line segments into plines, and then turn the width up to 0.03 like the rest of the shape. Okay, now I'll finish up my dims, and once I change the style to match, we'll be done with this and be able to move on to the next drawing. Looks like all I have to do is suppress the leading zeros, change the precision to 2 decimal places, and move some of these dimensions around. And since I've already been over all that, how to do that in the dim styles, I'll just speed along. Okay, here's the final drawing. Let me know if I went too fast or took too long. Of course, if you have any questions, you can leave them in the comments. Now, the third and final drawing we will do is, drum roll please, this guy, a fun little wrench. So as far as game plans go for this, I'm going to draw half of it and then use the mirror command and then add in these little polygons in the middle after that. So without further ado, I'll make yet another drawing with our fancy template, and I'll start by making these circles of a radius 0.625. I used this top button to get the circle tool, but you can also use the command shortcut C enter. Now I'll type the radius 0.625 and press enter. Now I'm going to do the horizontal bars, and I'll start with 1 in the middle. Since I'm only drawing half of this, I'll make the length 2.5, half of 5, and now I'm going to offset this line on either side by 0.25 to create the proper thickness. Now I'm going to call the trim command using TR enter shortcut. Trim these guys and then delete this middle one since I no longer need it. Now I will add my fillet, shortcut F enter. I'll set the radius by pressing R enter and then 0.25 enter. Now I can just click on these 2 lines here, then press enter to repeat the command, and I'll do the same thing on the other side. Now that I have this half, I'll call the mirror command using the shortcut MI enter. I'll select the objects to mirror, which is everything so far, press enter, and now it wants to know the mirror line, which is these 2 endpoints over here on the right. As I click them, you can already see the preview here, and now that I've clicked, it wants to know if it should erase the source objects. Obviously we don't want that, we want both halves, so I'll click no. You can also type in or just press enter since no is already the default response. Okay, neat. Now let's add the polygons. I'll call the tool using the shortcut POL enter, and it wants to know the number of sides. The default is 4, so I'll just go ahead and start with this little 4-sided diamond shape on the right. I'll press enter to approve of 4 as the number of sides, and then select the center of this circle, or arc, I guess, for the center of the polygon. Now it wants to know if the polygon will be inscribed or circumscribed by our circle, and in this case we want circumscribed, so that the diameter of this circle will be the length between the 2 opposite sides of the square. So I'll select that option, and type the radius of the circumscribed circle, 0.25, and press enter. Now it is at the wrong angles, but I'll just use the rotate tool. You can just type rot and it should autofill the command. Now it wants to know the base point, which is the geometric center of the square, so I'll click that, and I can either type the angle degree, 45, or I can use polar tracking to find that 45-degree line, and click to set it into place. Now for the hexagon at the left, I'll reissue the polygon tool, POL, enter, then I'll type the number of sides as 6. And here again, it's asking, do we want circumscribed or inscribed? This time again, we want circumscribed, and the radius of the circle will be the same as the square, 0.25. Cool. Now I'll just select everybody and move them to the shape layer and change the thickness. Now I'll add in my center marks on the dim layer. I can't click on the polygons to add the center marks, so I'll click on the arcs around them. And so that I don't have to do the extra step of using the match properties tool, I'll just select them both and change the properties at the same time. Luckily, in this case, the cross and gap size look about right, so I'll just change the extensions to 0.1. That's alright. Maybe it could be a tad smaller, but you can play around with that if you want to. Cool. Now let's put in that center line, which is also under the Annotate tab, right next door to the center mark. This tool will place a line exactly between two other lines, so I'll click on this top and bottom line, and boom, there it is. You can see in the reference drawing that this is supposed to be a sort of a dashed line, and it looks solid right now, even though when we go over to the Properties tab, it says that it's a dotted line. It's the same one we want, but why can't we see it? Well, it's because the scale is way too high. So I'll change this to 0.1, press enter, and that looks pretty good. It is off center though, so I'll just move these endpoints to a better place. Maybe the scale is still a little too big, so I'll change that to 0.07, and awesome! Yeah, that's much better. Cool. Now all we have left to do is dim, so put that in real quick. Again, I need to suppress leading zeros, but the precision is good, so I'll just change that in dim styles real quick, add in my X's, flip the arrows I need to fix, and then I'll explode these dimensions so I can change them how I need. I struggled a bit with this middle dimension, trying to figure out how to get the flip arrow option. It turns out I had to move it over slightly so that I could see that option because that little handle was just hiding, I guess. Yay! Okay, so that's it. I hope you enjoyed this as I enjoyed making it, and of course, leave your questions, comments, and suggestions in the comment section. Yeah, stay cool and have a great day.